Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison for Digital Trends, and this is our first socially distanced TV unboxing and review. It's been an interesting time here. So basically, we have been stuck in our homes for about 3 weeks. Decided to come down here and shoot a TV review, and we have been exceedingly careful. Touched nothing on the way in. Completely empty lobby in the building. Nobody is in this office right now except myself and producer Dan, and that dude is not allowed within 10 feet of me. In fact, he actually did the unboxing himself, got things set up so that I could come in and we could basically lock the camera down and start shooting. So it's about the most safe TV review we could possibly work out. We're taking this stuff very seriously, but we do want to bring you a premium product, great TV review, and what a TV to start it out with, folks. We have the LG G10 Gallery Series OLED, the brand new 2020 model. I think a lot of people are going to call it the GX, like they'll call it the CX and the BX and whatever. I mean, let's face it, LG kind of copied Apple, right? But it is the G10, the Gallery Series, which I was not actually expecting to get. I was expecting the C10. The G10 showed up, and wouldn't you know it, it doesn't come with legs. That's right. Part of the magic of this particular TV is that it has a no gap, no shadow wall mount. That's what LG calls it. This is a first for them. Kind of bridges the gap, no pun intended, between the wallpaper OLED and the previous E series. So there is no more E series. We got the Gallery series, and this is it. So let's dive in. Okay, so like I said before, Dan did the unboxing for me before I got here, and this is what's in the box. No legs, you'll notice that right away. What you will see are some extremely stout wall anchors and bolts. Then you've got the wall bracket itself. Interestingly, 2 double-headed IR blasters, so a total of 4 different IR blasters for controlling your cable box and what have you. And then, of course, the old breakout cable in case you're gonna hook up an old school Nintendo or something. All right, here's the back of the TV, and this is important for once because it's part of the defining characteristics of the TV. We have a recessed bay with these 2 lugs here. And then, of course, we have our wall bracket, which you will actually put on the wall first, right? So just imagine that the bracket is on the wall and we're doing things in reverse here. So we take our wall bracket expanded out like this, right? So that gives us a little bit of working room. We slip it over the 2 lugs, bring it up, fix the clips, and then we can pop it right back in. And as you can see, once it goes all the way back in and is leveled out, it's totally flush. So there will be no gap between the back of this TV and the wall. Now, you're not going to see anything back there, but LG does provide a couple of panels that you can put over the input bay here. And then again, if you're going to put this on a piece of furniture like we have here today, there's another decorative panel to cover up the recessed wall mount bay. When you get this TV mounted right up on the wall and there is no gap at all, no shadow because there's no space, it looks really slick. It's got a very thin profile, and finally we can get a wall-mounted OLED that takes advantage of that thin profile. Now, it's not as flush as the wallpaper OLED, for instance, obviously. But then again, that wallpaper OLED comes with a gigantic soundbar, and all the electronics are housed in that soundbar. Here, the electronics are actually in the TV. So I've got to give props to LG for designing a TV that keeps all the electronics in the main cabinet, but they basically reorganized everything so that they could make it extremely thin and get this gorgeous Gallery Series look. Now, we do have legs here. There's no point, absolutely no point whatsoever. If you're gonna put this TV on a media stand, other than just the general thinness of the TV, I don't see the point of spending the extra money. I would steer you right towards the C10 series, which is gonna make a whole lot more sense and cost a lot less money as well. All right, so we've got the G10 more or less set up here. Time to plug it in, and oh, hey, look at this. A right angle plug, why? Why? I just don't get it. Look, if you're gonna put this in a power strip, it's gonna take up more room than it needs to. I'm sure there's a reason, but whatever it is, I don't think it's good enough. Just give me a straight plug. All right, moving on. So we've got the TV plugged in. It's time to do the initial setup. You may be familiar with WebOS from previous reviews, but you're not familiar with this version, which has been significantly improved. So the setup process here is quality. It walks you through everything very clearly. It's going to recognize your inputs, make sure that they're named correctly, and then things get a little bit more complicated. So you'll notice that it's going to want you to agree to a bunch of user terms. And I would not agree to all of them necessarily. Go ahead and look through to find out what kind of information the TV is going to be gathering about you, your viewing habits, whether it's going to be using artificial intelligence or not. Take some time, pick the ones that you can agree to, and move on. Now, this would be a really good time to go ahead and go into some of the apps that you know you're going to use a lot: Netflix, YouTube, Amazon Prime, because it's going to need to update them. And that's going to take a little while. And then you're going to want to go ahead and log into those. So just take the time, get it over with, do this now, and then we can move on to some other settings within the TV. We'll press the setting button here, and you can get quick settings here, as you can see. But we're going to go ahead and pop into all settings, because I'm surprised that there's some stuff here that is not turned on by default. We'll get into that in just a moment. You'll notice I'm in filmmaker mode, and actually we're in HDR right now. Filmmaker mode is something that you're going to be seeing on a lot of TVs in 2020. The idea is that you can get out of the picture quality what Hollywood elitists would want you to see. So it's very well calibrated right out of the box is the idea. It's not all that different from Cinema Home or the cinema setting. As you can see, as I'm switching, there's very little difference between these two. But I guess the idea here is with filmmaker mode, you know you're getting what the artist intended you to see. That's the idea anyway. You'll notice that we have a few other settings in here, which I highly recommend you don't use. Because we're in HDR, we're not seeing ISF right now. We'll bounce out of HDR in a little bit and show those to you. Outside of the picture settings, I want to go into connection. And this is an area I was a little surprised to see that under device connection settings, HDMI CEC is not turned on. So if you want to have a more interactive experience between the television and your other devices, turn that on. Auto power sync is actually pretty cool because when you power on the TV or power it off, it's going to turn off devices that are linked as well, which I think is really slick. Let's bounce out of that, go into general. Believe it or not, let's go down to additional settings really quick here. Power saving mode is on by default, so you're going to want to go ahead and turn that off. When the power saving mode is on, it actually reduces the total brightness that you can get out of the TV. So be sure to go ahead and turn that off. Also, you can turn off the standby light if that bugs you when the TV is turned off and that little light is there. Under support is where we find software update. And believe it or not, automatic updates is not turned on by default. I do recommend you go ahead and do that, at least for a short period of time to make sure that the TV has the latest version of the WebOS firmware. Okay, and real quick, I've pulled up Netflix so that we are out of HDR for the moment. Go into all settings and into the picture mode settings area. Click on picture mode again, and here we have the whole gamut. So it comes in auto power save by default. Like I said, you're going to want to get out of that right away. Standard obviously is going to have very cool color temperature, and motion smoothing will be on. If you like a brighter, cooler picture, great, that's fine. You can select this, but make sure you go through and turn off the motion smoothing. Cinema, pretty self-explanatory. This is what we're used to starting with, although I will have to say that I do prefer ISF Expert Bright Room or Dark Room mode as a launch point before I start making any other adjustments. And then, of course, I do want you to go ahead and play with Filmmaker mode and see how you feel about that. This does mean that when you're in standard definition, the peak brightness will be limited to 100 nits, and that's very intentional. So you may find that the picture is a little darker than you like in Filmmaker mode. I don't recommend using it if you're in anything other than a completely blacked out room with the lights off. Now I want to go ahead and pop into the home dashboard. This is something LG is pretty proud of right now. The idea here is that you can have access to everything in one place. So your mobile interactions are on the far left. All of your inputs are here, represented by, as you can see, Comcast Portland here. We have a Sony 4K Blu-ray player connected. You have access to live TV here, which we have not yet programmed. And then if we had anything connected to these other inputs, they would be appropriately labeled as well. Sound output settings, real quick here, you can use the internal TV speakers. You can send out via optical. You can defeat the speakers. You can actually use Bluetooth if you want to in order to output to a soundbar or your Bluetooth headphones. Access to a media server if you had one, or anything on USB storage. And then over on the far right, home IoT devices. So this is where you can actually have access to your smart home devices, your thermostats, your smart washing machine, your smart oven, your smart refrigerator, your smart locks. Anything can be put here in this area, and then you can manage them. So imagine that you want to set up some scenes. You could set up watch movie or good night. And in the good night case, it would not only turn off the TV, but it might lock the doors, draw the blinds, and lower the thermostat for you. LG really wants to make the TV the hub of your smart home system. I don't know if that's something that people are going to like, but they put it here and they made a big deal out of it for 2020, so I wanted to make sure we showed that off. And finally, new look for WebOS. It takes up less of the screen than it used to before, so you can still see a good deal of what's happening up above all these different tiles. But if you want quick access to the most popular apps, they're right here. Of course, you can always reorder these as you see fit. As you can see, we have Alexa integration. It also supports Google Assistant, and it has its own built-in voice recognition software. So let's talk about that a little bit more. You will find Voice Assistant across LG's entire OLED lineup, and all of the TVs will come with a Magic Motion remote with a microphone up top and a microphone button that you have to press in order to access it. If you want hands-free Voice Assistant experience, you can get that with the Gallery Series, the Wallpaper Series, and the Z Series, aka OLED above that. Not available in the C Series or B Series this year. But you have to opt in, you turn it on, and then you just say, "Hi, LG," and up it'll pop to assist you. So LG has its own Voice Assistant built in, but where that stops, Google Assistant picks up, and that's what we've seen over the last couple of years with LG OLED. So if you want to ask it about the weather, it can pull that up on its own. If you wanted to switch to a certain station or streaming service, you can do that. You can search within those, all using LG's own software. But if you want to order a pizza with your TV, that's where Google Assistant is going to come into play. And that also counts for controlling some of your smart home devices if you're going to use Google Assistant to do that. There are a few more bells and whistles built into this TV, not the least of which is LG's new Alpha 9 Gen 3 processor, which has some slick new algorithms in it. We're going to talk about that and some of the other slick features built into the TV in our full review, where of course we will also be talking about picture quality. But for now, I wanted to show you what the Gallery Series looks like, how you're going to set it up, not like this, mounted on the wall, looks super slick, and what it's like to go through some of the initial menu settings in order to get the TV looking the way you want it to. Hey everybody, thanks as always for watching. Are you as excited as I am to get back to TV reviews? I'm definitely stoked. Leave me a comment down below, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, visit digitaltrends.com for the latest tech news and reviews.